Hey guys, so it's my second time filming this. I just filmed this and then I went to put it on my laptop and then I realized my microphone wasn't on, so I have to refilm this. This is the story of my dearest Chili, who passed away recently. Chili was a chinchilla who we adopted, or he was rehomed to us because his owner couldn't look after him anymore. And he was a presence. He was the most lively chinchilla with so much personality, and he was a breeding partner for Bubbles, and we had lots of beautiful babies with him. And Kylo is his son, so at least we've got a part of him with us. Before Chili, I knew that chinchillas could make a noise and they could vocalize, but I'd never heard it. None of my other chinchillas do it, but Chili was vocal. He made sounds, just like communication sounds with the other chinchillas, and he had such a big personality. He was territorial over his cage and he didn't really like handling. I don't know, but it was part of who he was. I'd just like to say that like in previous times when other people have made videos telling the story of their pet who passed away, some people have left comments saying either the person was getting too emotional, that it seemed fake, or not enough emotion, and maybe they didn't love their pet enough. The first time I filmed this, I teared up. I didn't think I would, because although this happened recently, I did get a lot of closure very quickly, and I'll explain why in the story. So yeah, I did cry a lot throughout the days, throughout his last days. Yeah, and like I said, I did tear up the first time I filmed this because hearing it out loud again was harder than I thought it would be. So this is a notebook I have. It's where we keep all our chinchillas records and information and breeding records and so forth. And what I had done while Chili was still sick, I wrote down all the information and what had happened every single day since he first collapsed, because I needed all the information in front of me, because I was trying to find out every possible thing, any sort of cause, and trying to figure out any sort of extra thing I could have done to help him. So I'm going to be looking and referring to this because the course of his sickness was so sudden and just such a blur. The weekend that this started, the Saturday was the 23rd of February. I wasn't at home. I was at my boyfriend's house, and then on the 23rd of February my mom was cleaning the chinchilla's cage and Chili collapsed, and she thought thought maybe he had gotten shocked or something, like the stress of her cleaning the cage, because Chili was very territorial over his cage. And she thought maybe she'd given him a fright or something. So she took him to the vet where we always take our chinchillas. And when he got there, he was all lively and active again. Obviously he was stressed at a person holding him and, I don't know, checking up on him and at a new place and that. So the vet there didn't quite understand what was going on. Hearing my mom say that he collapsed and then looking at him in person, it didn't correlate, so she just prescribed him rest. And then so my mom took him home, and for the rest of that day he was just lying on his side, just completely motionless. And then on the Sunday, that morning, first thing, my mom took him to a different vet who we've actually never gone to before, but they were open the earliest, and that was her reasoning for taking him there. Luckily the vet there did know about chinchillas and that, so that was good. And again, when he was there, he was more lively in that, so they were also unsure, but they kept him overnight and prescribed him meds because when he was there, they did kind of diagnose it as the problem wasn't shock or anything like that. It was that he was having digestive problems, and I don't know if he did urinate or poo while he was at the vet, but yeah. And then at 1 p.m. on, what date is this? Monday the 25th, he was brought back home, and when I got back from varsity that day was actually the first time I've heard of this news. Like I said, I wasn't at home on the weekend, and then Monday morning I wasn't the one who, my mom gave them food that morning, and I didn't look at the chinchillas and I didn't know about this. And so when I found out, I was heartbroken, and because of that I was upset that she didn't tell me on the day that it happened. And I was just upset because I was left in the dark those days, like Saturday, Sunday, and the morning of Monday. And I felt like I could have helped him, because I do so much research into this pet care and that, and like I said, my mom thought it was shock or something, and I felt if I was there I could have diagnosed him sooner, as it was a digestive problem. Because when he was home on Monday and I saw him for the first time and I was watching him, it didn't take me long to realize that it was a digestive problem, because he hadn't urinated or pooped, which is a significant thing because chinchillas poop an immense amount. So I was completely terrified at the situation, and so at 5 p.m. that day I gave Chili the electrolyte mix with water that the vet had prescribed, and he did take to it quite well. He was a bit more lively again when I held him to give him the medicine. So at 8 p.m. that day I gave him the other medication. It's called Clopamon, that he was prescribed to help get his digestive system working again, because the vet did think it was like a stasis of sorts. And yeah, I gave that to him, and obviously medicine isn't going to work immediately, but I was just so nervous and terrified of this whole situation, as I've been watching him non-stop, you know, as soon as I saw him. So I'd been watching him non-stop, and he was just laying the whole time on his side, looking uncomfortable and in pain and so ill. So at 8:30 I phoned the after hours number of Onderstepoort. They're the place where people in South Africa go to study veterinary science. So I felt like if anyone would have advice and would know what's going on, it would be them. So I phoned, and the lady, I told her the whole story, and she agreed with what the vet here had said, and she just said keep doing what we're doing. But she also did prescribe him pain medication, because whenever I gave him his medicine, he would grind his teeth, which in this case would indicate pain. Yeah, I had the pain medication on hand from Lady when she had her surgery earlier that month. So luckily I had that, and I gave that to him. Then at 10 p.m, still Monday, I phoned the after hours number of the vet that we had taken Chili to now, and where he was being looked after now. And because I was just so terrified, and so a vet agreed to meet us. This isn't the vet who had seen him on Sunday, but she still, she could read the file on the computer of what this other vet had done, and she also did know about chinchillas, so that wasn't an issue. She gave him a large injection of fluids and also another injection to help encourage his digestive system to start working again. I'd also, I think it was also on the Monday, asked on a chinchilla Facebook group, just for, because I was brainstorming all these different options of what could be wrong with him, and I had like typed that he was motionless and that, and I asked if it was heat stroke, just, I don't know, considering all my options of what could be wrong. And then the people there had said no, it isn't, and I should give him critical care. And obviously I know that that would have been the best thing to feed him at this time when he was so ill, but the vet didn't have it, and also if I had ordered it online it wouldn't have come in time. What we ended up doing, which was suggested, was taking the pellets we feed our chinchillas and add a bit of water and make like a pulp out of it, and that would have also, because it's got like fiber and roughage, it would have helped, you know, the digestive system move along. When he stayed overnight at the vet, they had given him Purity baby food, the one that you get in the little glass bottle. I think they gave him the butternut flavor, which I wasn't too happy about, because firstly it's like baby food and stuff, and it was also butternut flavor, which is like a vegetable, and chinchillas don't do well with fresh fruit and vegetables, too much sugar for them. But I do realize that maybe it would taste nice and be like an appetite stimulant, which would get him to start eating his pellet mixture again, and it would also act as like a laxative of sorts. On the morning of the 26th, he was actually sitting on all fours and sleeping like that, which was, it seemed like a better sign, you know, he wasn't laying on his side uncomfortably, so that seemed better. But after half an hour he was back to laying on his side again, very uncomfortable and in pain. There was also still no urine or poo and feces at this time, so as far as I know, since Saturday when he collapsed until the 26th, there still wasn't any feces and urine, which is, it terrified me and stressed me out so much. And then the rest of the 26th he continued to deteriorate and just look so ill and in such pain. Also I noted that when I held him, to syringe feed his medicine, his stomach felt like a big inflated balloon. On the morning of the 27th, my mom was the one to give him his medicine and try and feed him, but he wouldn't acknowledge that there was stuff going into his mouth. Like, it would go into his mouth, but he wouldn't close his mouth, or he wouldn't chew, or he wouldn't... It seemed like he didn't even know it was there, and he didn't make an effort to try and swallow it in that, and he was just deteriorating so fast. And my mom also said that he felt very cold, so I put him under a ceramic heat emitter, which I didn't want to do before because chinchillas are so heat sensitive, but I realized now would probably be the time to do that. Also, the previous days I had been monitoring the surrounding temperature with a thermometer around him. I don't know, just to monitor that if he wasn't going to get too hot, cold or something. I was just trying to do everything I could. He was just completely motionless the whole time he was at home, and just with labored breathing, and it was so horrible to see him in this state. So evidently shock wasn't the cause, and it was a digestive issue. So I don't know, I was just, the meds that the vet had prescribed weren't working, so I thought we needed a new approach and maybe an x-ray could help. But my parents and the vet weren't keen on an x-ray because it wouldn't change the medicine that they were giving him, it wouldn't give them more information. So we didn't do that. So then on the morning of the 27th of February at about 9 a.m. Chili did pass away. The vets did try to resuscitate him, but it wasn't successful, obviously. And I just felt so crushed. Obviously losing a pet isn't easy, and just not knowing what happened really was just so horrible. So I spoke to the vet and I said that I wanted a necropsy done, and I wanted to be there when she did it because I needed to see what was happening inside. I needed to see that foreclosure. And some of you may think that this is horrible to attend the necropsy of your pet, you know, who wants to see their pet being cut open. But I do dissections at varsity, so the idea of you know, cutting open a dead animal doesn't affect me that much. Obviously this is a pet, but I needed to see what was going on. So at 10 o'clock I went to the vet and I watched as the vet did the necropsy, and I asked questions and all that. As soon as she cut him open, there were two immediate things that stood out. First was his stomach, which was massive. It was massively inflated with all the fluids and the food we had tried to give him. And then the upper part of his intestine was also completely filled and enlarged. And then the second thing that was noticeable, the second large thing, was this very large yellow bubble. And this bubble had pinched his intestine at a point, so no food or anything was able to pass beyond it, and it had probably cut off the blood supply to the rest of his intestine, and it had caused that to the rest of his intestine to deteriorate, and it did not look healthy at all. It was a different color, and lower down towards the end of his intestine there was some very hard fecal matter, and it didn't even look like it was in an intestine anymore. It was just covered in like a very thin membrane. That's how bad the intestine was damaged. So obviously it was damaged so much that it wasn't able to function and didn't allow that fecal matter to pass through. This bubble, the vet didn't know what it was, so she cut it out, and she had an idea maybe it's a parasite that caused it or something, so she cut it open and it was just a bunch of fluid and there wasn't a parasite or anything. We don't know what this fluid was because tests would need to be done on it to figure out what exactly it was, but she thought maybe it was this liquid that is found in blood or something. So that thing had obviously been growing for long enough that it had grown to its size, but she said also not long enough that it had solidified. It had definitely grown very rapidly. The vet also mentioned that his liver didn't look right and it didn't look too healthy. In seeing this bubble of fluid, it gave me a sense of closure to know that it was nothing I did wrong in his care, and so now I could accept there was nothing the vets could have done. He wouldn't have survived surgery because he was so weak, and also, like I said, this lower part of his intestine was so badly deteriorated, you know. So then on that day I also I posted on that chinchilla Facebook group that I had asked for advice for. I just gave an update since so many people had given me advice, just to let them all know that he didn't make it, and I told them what the actual problem was. And so many people left such kind words and their condolences in the comments, and over 90 people liked that post, and it just, all these strangers, just, it felt like they were all giving me one big hug, and it was such a nice feeling to know supported by these strangers who I've never talked to before, because obviously, yeah, people know what it's like to lose a pet, and they know that the love that we share for chinchillas. And there were even such nice comments. There was one particularly nice one that was a lady who reminded me that it wasn't my fault and that I did my best to give him the best life I could, and clearly there was nothing anyone could have done, and that was just very nice to hear. So I just wanted to share this story because a lot of people were reading all the updates that I had been putting on my Instagram, and I just wanted to tell the full story in a video, and also just to remind you that whenever you get a pet, please get or find a vet near you who knows about that type of animal, so that in an emergency situation you know where to go and you know that your pet will get the best care possible. From that, also knowing that vet care is extremely expensive, but obviously I wouldn't have minded spending any amount of money on trying to save him. I would never hold back to try and save money at the expense of my pet, you know. If they need help, I'm going to give it to them. But February was a financial month because the beginning of February was ladies' surgery, and now at the end of February it was this. So I'm also just reminding you guys that you need to have you've got to have money in the bank for if something like this had to happen, or your pet needs medical attention, because it's your job to look after your pets, and in times when they need that medical care, you know, it's your job to do everything that you can, and hopefully you would want to because you love your pet. And that's what I did. We took him to the vet so many times, and we went to the after hour vet, which obviously costs more, and we did everything that we could. So after the necropsy, she stitched him up and we brought him home to bury him. But I also I kept a little bit of his fur, and I might print a photo of him and put it in a frame with his fur there. And I also I bought clay to do his footprints in. I bought the wrong clay at the art store. I bought this kitty's clay, which is all soft and squishy and I don't like it, but his footprints came out quite nice in this one. And then I also just put a C, you probably can't see, just the little C with the date that he passed away and the chili there. And then also my sister actually had this clay at home, which is the kind of clay that I wanted, but this actually didn't come out so nice. It's got like fingerprints on, and this was very difficult to handle. You know, the footprints didn't come out as nice on here. And I also I put his footprints on these two little rocks. So that's the story of Chili's last few days. Thank you to everyone who sent me beautiful words and condolences that just comforted me through this very tough time. And thank you to all the vets that tried to help Chili, even though there was technically nothing they can do. They did try their hardest to help him. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.